This is the Blockchain Show's Ethereum spinoff, the Ethereum Show, with Steve and Joey. Episode number 1.
We should start off by going back in time to 2016, where the Blockchain Show was just a figment of mine and Ethan's imagination, where we started out with the Blockchain Show. When we first came up with the idea, I was thinking that Ethereum was the best cryptocurrency out there. And I felt like it was still relatively new, though. And so I had no idea. And I wanted to no idea whether the scope was too small or too large. And so I kind of expanded the title and expanded the scope of the show to be about promoting widespread use and demystifying of the blockchain or distributed ledger technologies. I think it did pretty good. We have definitely demystified it. Nobody is mystified anymore.
Right. Everybody. I could ask anybody walking down the street, what is a cryptocurrency? And they'll tell me right away with 100% accuracy.
100% accuracy. There's not a single person in the world who gets sarcasm. Oh, wait, no.
I'm still mystified.
You are.
And I've listened. I've listened to the old show, not in its entirety. I'm not a fanboy yet, but I feel like I have learned quite a bit. But I still have plenty of questions.
Yeah, you'd have to be a super fan to listen to all the episodes. I only know of one person who's done that, other than me.
Oh, who's that? Who's the super fan?
One of my dad's friends, funny enough, who didn't even know that I was my dad's son when he started listening.
Yeah, you told me that story. That's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know that 100% to be true. Maybe but at that time, that's what he said. So,
have you listened to every episode?
Oh, yeah. I have to.
Multiple times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I haven't.
I don't blame you. I mean, it's been how long since you've been on a podcast? Like a year, 6 months?
Don't know. Didn't keep track. It's been a while.
I can't even remember the first one we did. I think I threw it away or I got it somewhere, but it never made it to, the Wi-Fi waves.
Oh no, I think it's there. Is it not there?
I guess we had like a pre-episode 0 that was so bad it didn't even qualify as an episode 0.
Oh, is that true?
I think so.
I forget. I think our original episode 0 was about Brooklyn hipsters, which did the network of solar panels, smart furnaces, and then Tesla, where episode 1 was our money on Yap. Intro to the DAO. Ooh, the DAO. That's a funny one. But anyways, I want to talk about Ethereum on the show and kind of limit it to deep dive into Ethereum and the Ethereum ecosystem and what's going on with that. And one of the reasons why is that I think Ethereum has really proven to be, over the course of time, to be the cryptocurrency that's really going to make waves. One of the reasons is that even things like Bitcoin apparently are scaling better on Ethereum than they are on, Lightning Network and other Bitcoin solutions. The scaling, when a crypto is that good where it's beating
an old standby.
Yeah. When it's like flipping the infrastructure on its head, like when so there was a time when, phone calls, it was, through AT&T or whatever, and they would patch it through. And then the internet came along. Now every single phone call is on the internet. That's what's going to happen with Bitcoin. Every single Bitcoin transaction, I don't know about every single, but most Bitcoin transaction will actually happen on Ethereum and not on Bitcoin. And that's kind of an amazing thing that I would not have predicted less than 6 months ago or a year ago, but definitely appears to be the way it's going.
So just to clarify, Steve, when you throw out the word Bitcoin, do you generally use that as like a Kleenex word regarding all cryptocurrency, or are you pretty specific when you say Bitcoin, you mean Bitcoin?
In this particular instance, I was meaning Bitcoin to mean Bitcoin. The cryptocurrency, the specific cryptocurrency. In general, though, I mean any sort of peer-to-peer cryptography-based network kind of gets the loose terminology of Bitcoin because I've been promoting widespread use of cryptocurrencies for a long time. When I talk about Bitcoin, I'm talking often when I'm talking about the Bitcoin network or the Bitcoin philosophy, I'm talking in general about a Bitcoin that doesn't really exist anymore, just in a distant memory, where the current state of Bitcoin, and there's really no other cryptos that have filled in the exact niche that fulfilled what Bitcoin was, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So that kind of no longer exists, just as a theoretical solution to a problem. So I use the term both ways. In that particular instance, I was using it specifically to Bitcoin, the coin. But also sometimes when I'm using Bitcoin in general, I'm referencing just a generic peer-to-peer blockchain or cryptography-based system.
So do you think there's been no real successor to Bitcoin itself? Do you think that may be what Ether is now? Or, I mean, it sounds like you're talking about Bitcoin in almost a past tense form at this point.
Yeah, it definitely has, in my mind, fallen away from its original goals, and it no longer even tries to be what it was initially supposed to be, or what a lot of people were building. So the idea of a Bitcoin where any person can send money to any other person anywhere around the world without a middleman is something that is not possible and nor wanted really on the Bitcoin network. And by that I mean the particular Bitcoin core software that has the designation BTC on most trading platforms. There's other like forks of it, like the Bitcoin Cash fork, which tries to meet that aim. But I think when you lose the original name and marketing and first mover advantage, you just can never catch up. So there's Litecoin, which was kind of like the silver to Bitcoin's gold. And I don't think after Charlie Lee sold all his Litecoins that there's really much ingenuity or anything going on in that space. So there really isn't anything that has directly filled the space of what Bitcoin is, which is just a peer-to-peer money without middlemen. Now Ethereum, on the other hand, has that role, but it's designed a little differently. It's designed to be a world computer, includes smart contracts. So it has the capabilities of Bitcoin. It has the capabilities of Bitcoin built into the system, but it's got a loftier or a larger goal, which has some limitations. So there's nothing like Bitcoin was anymore. And the closest thing will be Ethereum. I'm sorry, will be Bitcoin on Ethereum. So these wrapped tokens. So on Ethereum, you can take a smart contract and wrap Bitcoins so that you can keep track of these Bitcoins in these wrapped Ethereum tokens, and you can exchange the Ethereum tokens amongst each other quickly and easily, and then anybody can then unwrap the Ethereum tokens and get back Bitcoin. So it kind of solves the scalability problem that Bitcoin has refused to solve and has decided that is not something they're going to do.
So it almost sounds like you're saying that Ethereum is going to be the thing that takes Bitcoin back to what it was supposed to be?
Well, I mean, it was supposed to be that without a second network, without a second layer that isn't Bitcoin. It was just all supposed to have those capabilities where you can transact with anybody anywhere in the world. But the developers had decided that what was originally designed was something that was not possible. And so they kind of switched around to things like Lightning Network. And if you look at the Lightning Network, the amount of Bitcoin that is used on the Lightning Network is far dwarfed by the amount of Bitcoin that is used on Ethereum. And it's a really sad state of affairs when the solution that the developers built that's native to the Bitcoin core, the Bitcoin blockchain, is dwarfed by the numbers that are being used on Ethereum.
Do you think that has something to do with the open source nature of Ethereum? Because the technophiles that would prefer to use digital cryptocurrency are probably happier with the more honest nature of the open source network?
Both are kind of open source. I think what it has to do with is that Ethereum is much more open to pursuing any avenue of success. So there may be 100 or 1,000 different uses for cryptocurrency that the Ethereum developers and the Ethereum developer community has decided they want to pursue. And that's not the case on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is kind of pursuing this store of value, this trader, this almost like a pyramid type scheme, and that's kind of the only use that is allowed. So the reason why there's more use on Ethereum is because there's less friction. There's more of an open community where people on Bitcoin have been burnt before. So there's a larger development community. It's a world computer. So if you build something like Lightning Network, it's only compatible with Lightning Network. If you build a way to wrap Bitcoin on Ethereum, you can wrap any other token. So your work is more likely to be rewarded if you have an open community, not necessarily open source because they're both open source.
Okay. So, but you say world computer, like that's supposed to mean something to me?
The Ethereum world computer is a way of thinking about what the Ethereum network is. When you have an Ethereum blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain is actually Turing complete. So you can actually run any program that can be run on a computer. Where Bitcoin is script, so there's only certain functions that it can do. It's more like a TI-85 than a computer. It's very specific. And when I mean Bitcoin, I mean the actual Bitcoin blockchain. And that provides that reduces the attack surface that can be had. So it's in one sense a good thing to limit the amount of types of transactions or computations that can be done on a blockchain because it's very intensive to open that up. But Ethereum takes it in a different way and lets developers program any sort of Turing complete, any sort of program that can be run. Like if you wanted to run Photoshop on the Ethereum world computer, the entire network of nodes that are out, it would be insanely expensive and incredibly slow, and you wouldn't ever want to do that. But that's the type of thing you could. It's all interoperable.
So that's one of the big differences that I noticed when I first looked at Ethereum is that one of the things that they tout very much is the programmable nature. And so what you're saying is that Bitcoin is already programmed, as it were. It won't be changed. It is what it is, and it does what it does, which is a good thing because of security. Whereas Ethereum has a more, and honestly, I'm not quite sure what, programmable. So you can take it and change it. You give it utility. I mean, I noticed that there are a number of apps that are available to be used immediately just by going to the Ethereum website. And I haven't had the chance to get my fingers really dirty yet, but I'm certainly interested. Could you talk more about what is programmable and then like maybe throw out a couple of things that I should check out?
I guess maybe the biggest app or the biggest use of Ethereum is ERC20 tokens. And so ERC20 tokens stands for Ethereum Request for Comment. And the 20th of them, I think now they're actually like non-fungible tokens or ERC 731 tokens. With a blockchain, what you want to have typically is that each token is indistinguishable from any other token. It's just that you want to have that unit of account measurement. So if I have one Bitcoin and somebody else has one Bitcoin, my Bitcoin isn't more valuable than somebody else's one Bitcoin. Each Bitcoin is equal. Sometimes, like on the Ethereum network, there may be use cases where you actually want to have each Bitcoin per se, and I mean that loosely as in each unit of account on the blockchain, each blockchain unit of account designates something different. You can do it in like trading card games. There's the Genesis game. I forget what Spells of Genesis. And so each token has unique properties that make it, one of a kind. They've done it with albums where you can download albums. They've done it with CryptoKitties, was very popular at some point in time. And so that would be one use.
You can listen to music, and its value is even more inherent than it just being music. It also has like a real digital
you can
currency
just purchase,
value.
I think right now, and they're looking at ways to do this. I think it was Imogen Heap. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. Was looking at ways to kind of like if you were one of the first people to purchase a new band's album, then you may be rewarded based off of that early purchase with later sales. So if you kind of go and promote this band, there's a way to program Ethereum so that in the future you're rewarded for your purchases. Your purchasing behavior can designate that, this is somebody I liked early. You can get some sort of rewards for maybe promoting them or sharing your like of them on Twitter or whatever, and in social media, and then you can get rewards based on that.
Like a founder's benefit?
Like a founder's benefit, but it's, you're just sharing music that you enjoy.
But it also, as a music listener, fanboy, whatever, as an audiophile, you also have that traceable street cred of saying I was there first, and now you can prove it. You can like back it up instead of having to pull out the old concert T-shirts. You can actually show that you were there at day one with that band.
And you definitely can. You can show that you were there on day one. You purchased their album and you supported them. And in some cases, you will probably get rewards for being an early bird to the party.
That's pretty cool. I mean, just as somebody that hangs out with people that are really into music, I can see them getting on board something like that just to kind of throw it in everybody else's face and listen to the band before you did.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
What else are we looking at here? I mean, I just went through the page lickety split, and I saw games. I saw market tracker. I saw just the currency itself. Oh,
you mean Ethereum org? Was it the Ethereum.org one?
That's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
That's where I'm at right now. Now I get to quiz you. Because I need, what is dApps? What is a dApps?
Decentralized apps or distributed apps. They had to come up with a new name for apps that have a decentralized aspect of it. So it's just a fancy term for decentralized applications, or, apps on your phone or apps on the internet that are decentralized in nature. I've also heard
decentralized. Okay, so it's a GIF situation then.
Yeah, I've heard dApps and dApps. I prefer dApps, but dApps is one as well too.
Well, if you got your Black Eyed Peas fans out there, they're gonna want to have it be dApps, right?
Is that true?
Am I aging myself by making a Black Eyed Peas reference?
You're cooling yourself because I have no idea what you're talking about by Black Eyed Peas. Do they have something in relation to dApps?
Yeah. If you knew, you would know. So when you say decentralized, man, what does that just mean? That there's no like Apple controlling it or Google controlling it, or does it mean something more than that?
I think that's the main aspect of it. There's a lot of times where people develop something and they want it to be decentralized, and they want to use the term decentralized, but really they just are interested in themselves as the middleman. But largely, I mean, the point of a decentralized application is that it runs without, a controlling company. And
so you don't necessarily have to pay for a license, as it were?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that. You could build a decentralized organization which controls the licensing of the decentralized app. So it could still be something that you had to pay for. It's not necessarily like a freeware thing. Just that.
But you're not owned by some mega corporation.
Yeah, it's just that anybody can contribute to it. Anybody can modify it. So even if there is like Linux is decentralized, right? It's open source as well, but there's still Red Hat that is somebody who's making money off of it. But the core software is completely open source, completely decentralized. Well, in that particular case, it's not because it's Linus, but still, there's many people making different contributions to the application, and not necessarily to any immediate monetary reward, but they may also have other stakes that are involved in the. I'm not sure if I'm spelling this out right. I might have to go back and come up with a better answer.
I was going to ask you if you could elaborate, but if you want, we could just come back to it.
Yeah. It's been a while. I'm a bit rusty.
I understand, man. It's okay. It's my first time. Treat me gentle. This is something new for you. This is something. It's something old too. This is something that you've done for a while. Trying to be some kind of like Penn and Teller for cryptocurrency, if you will, and take the magic out of the magic, as it were. What is it in particular about Ethereum that has got you excited about it?
There is a never-ending list of things that are exciting about Ethereum. And
all right, baby, give me your top three.
It's also what most people are trying to copy from and steal from whenever anybody talks about like Cardano or EOS or a number of other different cryptocurrencies. That's just that they stole. It's open source, so anybody can take it. Ethereum Classic, just fork the repo. You're allowed to fork the repo. I don't mean steal as in they're not allowed to take it. I mean, they just took the repo, forked it, created their own cryptocurrency. Almost everything that's good about the cryptocurrency space right now, or that has the potential to be good, was started from Ethereum. Bitcoin obviously was what was led to Ethereum. It was only after Vitalik, one of the 9 creators of Ethereum, was trying to get his changes into the Bitcoin protocol and ran up against some pushback, that he decided to just create his own cryptocurrency as opposed to working with Bitcoin. It takes what Bitcoin was supposed to be and expands upon that a great deal. It's better than Bitcoin ever imagined that it could be. It's not better than a number of people in the space who had anticipated what a Bitcoin piece of software might be like. Smart contracts have been written about for a long time, but when I look at it, it's amazing that Ethereum is actually scaling Bitcoin, that it's now flipping where the infrastructure, where the vast majority of Bitcoin transactions will happen someday, and they will actually happen on Ethereum and not on the Bitcoin network. This is kind of huge. Ethereum is also switching from proof of work to proof of stake soon. So that's a really good reason why, one, there'll be less environmental damage, and two, it'll increase the cost of Ethereum over the short term. So I think the scaling process of going from proof of work to proof of stake, creating Ethereum to Ethereum 2, where there's multiple shards of chains, is amazing. With the infrastructure flip from Bitcoin transactions being in the future mainly going to be on Bitcoin, are probably the two main things that are pretty great about Ethereum.
This sounds like, I mean, when I'm listening to you, there's some jargon that's completely past me. So clearly, as somebody who knows about cryptocurrency, you're excited about this. Is this something that should also excite people that really don't know much about cryptocurrency, or is it still is this kind of like hard mode for the casual user or for the new user?
I would definitely say a lot of that would be hard mode. People don't really care what the underlying infrastructure is. People don't really care about the difference between proof of stake, proof of concept. But I think a large part of our audience will want to have more details at this point. They'll want to be in, the deep dive into the weeds, really discussing, really talking about, things of this nature. Now, I think there will be some people who will want to know the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. Is that one of the ones you didn't know or no?
100%. I mean, I can take those words, break them down, and come up with a theory as to what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah. All right, Joey. So listen to me. So I think I should just long story short it. Proof of work is a way to validate transactions on the blockchain using computing power. So I have a lot of computing power. I can prove it to anybody who's interested in that I have a lot of computing power, and the way they do that is interesting but not relevant. And so then I can make a block. On the other side of it is proof of stake, and it says I have, in the case of Ethereum, it'll be 36 Ethereum. I have this 36 Ethereum, which I'm willing to bet that I can produce a block based off these transactions that nobody will disagree with, and that all the different transactions will check out to be accurate. And so you put up this bit of stake and say that I'm not trying to cheat you, and if I'm trying to cheat you, then you can steal my Ethereum.
Proof of work is actually a mathematical proof.
Yeah, it's basically many mathematical proofs that you have to keep doing over and over again.
Okay. And what's the difference between that and proof of stake?
So proof of stake is that all you have to do is show that you are willing to risk your stake. So if you're doing Ethereum, you have to have at least 32 Ethereum. You take your 32 Ethereum and you put them into a staking contract and saying that I have this 32 Ethereum. And then you're allowed to join the validation pool. And if you're selected from the validation pool, then you must submit a list of transactions that you have validated and verified.
This is like sitting down at a table and...
No, it's a computer does it. I mean, all of these things are all just like a computer doing, you set up the server to run or the computer to run. Yeah, so a big deal is going to be when Ethereum goes to proof of stake soon. Currently, it's on proof of work. When they built in proof of work, they decided that they would build it in an ice age every so often, so that if they didn't actually build the code to switch it to proof of stake, it would require miners to hard fork it no matter what. And so every so often, the amount of time it takes to verify a block in Ethereum increases exponentially because they get closer to the ice age. And so far, they've just kind of pushed it off every time to reset the ice age to stop it from being so lengthy in between blocks. But what's going to happen is Ethereum's going to go to proof of stake soon. And that's really going to open up some things. Certainly some investors will want to take advantage of buying enough Ethereum so they can stake. Some of the details is you can probably have about 3 validating nodes on a middle tier laptop. There'll be things like Rocket Pool, where if you don't quite have the 32 Ethereum, you can join a pool and stake a portion of it. It's possible that Coinbase will allow you to stake your Ethereum. And so once proof of stake happens, then there'll actually also be sharding or more chains of Ethereum. That really allows scaling to happen. And so these two next things, proof of stake and scaling, really kind of make Ethereum a lot more interesting. Did we give it through the difference between proof of stake and proof of work or no?
I believe I understand, but I guess my question is, will this make it more accessible to anybody? I mean, you said basically if you have a laptop with decent computing power,
yeah,
you can get involved. So that means that virtually, anyone with some level of technological savvy and, let's face it, pocket change could get a decent laptop and get involved. And that seems kind of exciting to me, because usually when I think about cryptocurrency, I think about having to do a lot of research, or know somebody who has done that research and knows their shit. So how much difficulty will this pull off of that, or will it at all?
I recommend, as regarding crypto, to always either do a lot of research or know somebody who's done a lot of research that you can trust, because it's still, a nascent technology. 32 Ethereum, at 235 is still $7,520. So anybody who wants to invest $7,520 in Ethereum can pretty easily, create their own validation node. With any sort of money, you can probably join a pool. I think Rocket Pool is a fairly decent one that probably is very, very low risk, and there's obviously a certain fee for joining the pool. So anybody can earn rewards on the staking in Ethereum with very, very limited research by using a pool. However, I don't think it's quite easy enough for anybody just like, I'm going to spin up a validating node without doing any research. I think that would be a bad idea. You'd be able to either find somebody who's doing it or do a little bit of research to get that all in check.
Well, you know me, I don't think that anybody should do anything without doing a little bit of research.
Yeah.
But still, it seems like, 7,000 and change is a daunting number, but it's not untenable. It's not a ridiculous number, and it's certainly something that a group of friends could go in on, or even a pool of some sort independently, as opposed to. And I'm not against using existing infrastructure in any way, shape, or form. I'm just trying to think about, I guess, exciting ways for newbies or casuals to get involved.
I think the switch to proof of stake might be a good time for people who have ever been interested in the mining aspect of it. When you talk about cryptocurrencies, there's a lot of people who are simply focused on the mining seems to be the most interesting to them, and it's kind of it's kind of like a holy grail where for some people, they think that they just make money from doing nothing. And it's been a long, long time since that was the case. When you were doing it, when it was first starting out, you were just kind of like wasting electricity. But it turned out to be a good play.
You essentially, by mining, you're doing that proof of work, right?
So yeah, when you're mining, your computer is performing a series of cryptographic algorithms that are trying to end in a nonce of a certain difficulty. A nonce is a fancy way of saying a leading zero. So when you run the list of transactions plus a nonce through this algorithm, you're going to end up with a string. And that string is either going to have no leading zeros or a certain amount of leading zeros. And you have to keep running the algorithm with a different nonce to get the leading zeros to change. And it just happens randomly. There's no way knowing knowing the difficulty you're looking for, or knowing the previous hash that you're able to increase your chances of producing a number of leading zeros, other than randomly just changing the nonce on it. I think I'm confusing.
I'm pretty sure I could do it with a pencil and some paper, but that's Dunning-Kruger at work right there.
What is that?
Dunning-Kruger, the idea that
they said Dunning.
Yeah. Oh, am I cutting out?
No. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can.
No. Yeah, the idea that people who are not that smart think that they are very smart,
Yeah.
and the people who are very smart think that they are not.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the more you know about something, the more you also know of the things where you're lacking. So if you know a great deal about some particular technology or some particular bit of science or philosophy, then you also know your number of holes expand because you have more spots where you are. So it's kind of true. You're more aware of the knowledge you don't have, and so it's. I thought you said it was done in Kruger, which is different. You're going to go on your kitchen table at work and do it in Kruger.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Kruger Ranch. Issue. Sorry, I'm out of control now.
I think if you were to do one cryptographic running through of a list of transactions, it would take you about 30 minutes in pencil and paper. An ASIC does, many thousands of those in a second. So technically, you could mine Bitcoin by hand on a piece of paper. You just would never. You would just be very, very unlikely to produce a block, regardless of how many Dunnings or Krugers you have.
I think at that point, you just said something out loud, and now somebody somewhere is going to try it.
There's always somebody who wants to waste some time. Ethan, are you still around or no?
Yeah, I was going to cue the outro music there.